Zoomers can never get off their phones.
Okay, I'm older than you. How am I a Zoomer?
You're the one on your phone, not me.
Okay, here we go. We have Ham Sandwich with me today.
Only at in solo fashion, hold the pole and scope his fashion, smoking hash, a grove of babish, force a habit, known to bash, focus, hash, rat, and board to bash.
The guy who just raps his ass off, has the insane rhyme schemes, the flows, and has different modes too. Just pure rapping Ham Sandwich. But then sometimes we also have horny Ham Sandwich. What's your favorite song of yours?
Favorite song of mine is a song that's not out yet. If any of y'all were at MomoCon, saw the MomoCon performance at all, I had performed it as the very last song of my MomoCon set. And I also want to say that my patrons might be able to listen to it right now. It's called That's Cap.
I'm gonna put that in the description. You've worked with a lot of different people, right? To make a lot of different music. Do you have anything specifically in terms of like your favorite people to work with where you would say as soon as you get together with them, things just click?
People in Loop have always been great to work with. I mean, that's why we're in the same collective, is because we have the best chemistry. It's like,
Yeah.
if like 9 times out of 10, if I send someone on Loop a song, if they don't have it back the same day, they've got a pretty good reason why. And as far as working with people outside of Loop, definitely Schwabity, I would say, because all of the songs that we've done together have been absolutely insane.
Yep.
Just absolutely insane.
I
So,
agree. Yeah.
that's probably my favorites to work with.
You've released Anatomy 91 and 2.
Yeah.
I reacted to those albums. Sorry, losing my voice already. You had some fans just always asking for it, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And they were right. They were right. One of my favorite things about your music is the fact that you will share a lot about your personal life in those albums, right? And I feel like one of the things to me that I'd like more in nerdcore in general is someone that can bounce between those two, because I like having that connection with what you've been through and see if like, oh, I've gone through that too, and that helps me connect in that way while I can still have fun with the fun music, the nerdcore, and all that too. Do you think that you do that intentionally, or is it just whenever you're inspired, you'll just bounce between that?
Sometimes I go into a song thinking about a specific character in anime, and sometimes I'll just be thinking about something that's on my mind, and I'll relate that to an anime. And sometimes I'll just be making music. So, like with my albums, like Anatomy, a lot of the time I'm just kind of making music. With the Yes Sir stuff, again, making music a lot of time, but it's more fun. It's more, taking it a little bit less seriously, or just going a little more loosey-goosey with it. And then, for the weekly stuff is when, the thinking about characters and like themes and, stories, things that I want to cover, stuff like that will come up. But all of it is, all of it kind of stems from the same sort of creative seed.
Okay.
So it's not like I go in with a completely different process each time.
Okay. So it all starts from the same point, but then just veers depending on what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's nice. You were throwing some shots out in some of your songs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was.
I think so.
boy.
You were talking about you being a prominent person in this scene who really helped get this thing going, which I agree with. And I wanted to maybe pick your brain on some of your thoughts. You don't have to go directly at anyone, but um, you were talking a bit about people not wanting to feature with you anymore, I guess work with you, whereas before it was just like easier to get that done.
Well, I was mostly speaking on a sort of lack of appreciation
Okay.
for what I've done for certain people, because, it would be unfair
Yeah.
to say that I, created any of this or made any of this what it is. But there are a lot of people that I've given a lot of help to, for free,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of advice, a lot of, you know, just sort of, they'll send stuff to me, I'll bounce, you know, we'll bounce ideas back and forth, and I'll, you know, help them sort of break through and figure out what they actually, you know, need to be doing. And that kind of, you know, work a lot of the time isn't really seen as work
Okay.
because, you know, it just is what it is. And people will kind of underappreciate the value of having another mind that will think about things in a way that you didn't, and sort of cover your holes. And so when
Pause.
people, I said cover your holes, not fill. If I said fill your holes,
Okay,
you could
okay,
say
my
pause.
bad. Okay,
But
there we go.
but like, whenever people tend to look back at projects that they've done or things that they've been a part of, they will, you know, because a lot of people are like 70% of the way there.
Yeah.
They'll look at like, oh, I did this, you know, aspect of the work, and
Yeah.
you know, the main stuff and the main idea kind of came from my head, but you know, there'll be other people or other inspirations, or you know, people that you've consulted with or asked for advice for, and be like, hey, should I do this, should I do that? And those like sort of inputs are what make a song, because a song at 70% is not going to be that good, because it's so easy
To get to
to
70.
get to 70%. But when you know, reach those higher levels is when things like that will come in, and people will sort of, you know, discount that.
Yeah.
And that's when you see people like sort of fall back if they ever, you know, regress a lot of the time. It's because they stop taking advice. And you know, just kind of speaking on that mentality, because it's something that people will do consciously and subconsciously.
Yeah.
So, you know, just kind of talking about that. No one in particular really thinking about that, but you know.
Yeah, I think like you're someone that's very analytical, and you're someone that will go through some thoughts for a long time, at least from the quality of the lyrics that I hear from you. That's when I see, that's at least what I perceive, right? Like, no matter what topic, I feel like you've done your research. So how do you, I guess, first of all, why are you so wise? What's going on? Like something,
I mean-
it's not clicking for me.
Well, I guess I would just attribute it to me being wise. Like I've always known how to learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people around me make a lot of mistakes. And so it's
You've
very
captured
easy
from
for
that.
me to, yes. I know a lot of people who have to make a mistake themselves before they really internalize why it was a mistake, what they need to do better next. And, you know, I'm not going to say I don't do that, because I do that a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Like just a few weeks ago, you know, I was playing a fast and loose with a flight and I missed it. And then I'm calling my mom like, you were right, I got to get to the airport 8 million hours early and stuff. So
I'm still not gonna learn from that, by the
Yeah,
way, because
like-
until it happens to me, it's not a
Not
music
really.
video. Nice guess, though.
But yeah, nah.
Yeah.
So it's mostly just that. It's mostly just me being able to look around and see what other people are doing wrong, because I've just got an analytical mind. Like I can see especially if I'm on the outside of it, I can see a situation for what, you know, what it actually is and what it stems from. And then if I get to that point, I can just, you know, use my knowledge that I've gained from watching other people fail at a specific juncture and just not do that.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you for going into that, because one of the things that I find, I mean, when I react to people, I basically like internally I just rank them in like categories in a way, and when it comes to rapping and just, I mean, we've had some conversations too where like I could see that you go through a lot of thoughts. You're not
Yeah.
like, no offense to other people, but like when I talk to you, I can see that you're someone that's like in your mind quite a bit, right? Do you struggle with being in your mind too much though? Like, do you struggle with maybe overanalyzing things, or maybe trying to get something done too perfectly, like making perfect rhyme schemes? By the way, there's an emergency button there, so
Oh, yeah. I'm being careful. But Yeah, I definitely do, but it's mostly when it comes to sort of self-criticism and sort of like reviewing things that I've done.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has been with performing, because performing is still something that's relatively new to me. I feel like every time I perform, I get better and better at it. But every time I perform, I will, get off stage and I'll remember X, Y, and Z that I did wrong. You go talk to fans, they ain't even notice.
Yeah.
And it's just, stuff like that where it's like, I don't need to be as up my own ass about, but I will. And it's just is what it is. I know I shouldn't be, but
Yeah.
I just kind of am, because, can't turn my brain off like
Exactly.
in every situation. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, as far as like being perfectionist with the music goes, I allow myself to be more so that with my albums. But for the weekly drops, or like, I guess bi-weekly almost at this point, I am less concerned with perfection and more concerned with getting it to 80%. And Longest Solo Ever actually made a tweet about this like a week ago, where he was talking about his process, and it's very similar to mine. Or
Yeah.
he's like, well, once I started thinking I'm just gonna get these songs to 80%, I started making way more music, putting it out more, and then
The
fast
reps.
forward,
The reps. Yeah.
my 80% now is my 120% of yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's really how you improve. It's like being a artist with a pen or a pencil. It's like you got to sketch in the sketchbook. It's like, and you can't leave all of it in the sketchbook. You got to put something out. You got to let other people experience it and like give them their feedback and tell
So you
them
can
what
build
they
off
see
it.
about it, and like what you see as a flaw, they might see as a strength. Like, all these other kinds of things.
So get like those multiple inputs of feedback. That way you can, because I guess what you're saying is if you only shared it with, like you said, those group of people that'll help you go from that 70% to that 100%. They're also all artists, so you also want an audience because they're the ones actually listening to your music
Yeah.
at the end of the day, right? So you
Yeah.
want some of that too. Yeah.
And when you put a song out, you have to sit with it, which is one of the biggest sort of reasons why
Yeah.
I am, for the 80% get your reps in, just put the music out route. Because when you have to sit with a song, it really forces you to confront what your bad habits are. And I'm
okay.
going to say right now, there was a time like last year where I switched my mixing process, and, you know, I do a few songs in this style, and then I was talking to Silverhound, and I was like, hey, I can't get this mix to sound right. And he just sat me down, told me delete all my plugins, and we just made a completely new vocal chain from scratch.
Okay.
And it
How
sounded
long
a
did that
lot
take?
better. It didn't take that long, actually. It took like an hour maybe.
Okay.
Just like, he was just like, delete all that. Because like, all right, EQ, compression, don't use this, don't use too much of this. You can use this in some situations. Boom. And it was just like letting him take the wheel for just a moment. And then it's like, okay, now I have this foundation.
Yeah.
I built off of that chain since then. And, just sort of being able to pivot like that. That's the kind of pivot that you don't make if you are going to be sitting at the computer making those tiny little EQ tweaks over and over and over again until it sounds passable, and then you put it out, and then 2 months later you realize it still sounds like shit.
Yeah. So do you regret any songs you put out then? Following that?
Regret, I wouldn't say, but there is a song that I am like the most sad about how it came out sounding was Witch Bitch, because that was during this time, and the song just like, if you like the song, don't ruin it for yourself by doing this. But just listen to any song I've made this year and then go listen to that song and you'll hear what I mean. It sounds bad. It just doesn't sound nearly as good as any of the stuff that I've been making this year. And that's just because like my mixing process was I was too into it. I was trying to do too much.
Like get inside your head
Yeah.
that way, right? The one thing I want to tell you though is I've talked to quite a few artists at this point, and you all seem very focused on your mistakes, right? But let's talk about the things that you do well, right? Like focus on that. And I think even when it comes to performing, they'll be like, oh, I made this, that mistake. But me just there appreciating it, right? In the audience, I don't even catch those mistakes. So although it's amazing to be very hard on yourself, right? Because it drives that growth. At the same time, I think once you do put something out, that's it. You know, people are gonna love it. Like you got fans, right? They keep coming for a reason.
Yeah.
So they like your music, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we just talk about your whole music and sound as a whole, like you're like already almost there. Like even on verses and ciphers, I feel like for some reason on verses you go completely nuts. I
Yeah.
think you're a bit competitive.
Yeah, no. If you want me to have the best verse on a song, send it to me after everyone else has rapped. I
Because
will
then
give
he's
you the best
gonna-
verse.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Right,
been
yeah.
times where I'm like, okay, it's Ham next. Let me just lock in for a
Yeah,
minute.
like-
Let me focus a bit because I can't do this. I can't because sometimes I'll do a reaction and I'm not like phoning it in, but like I know there's not gonna be too much to like dissect there.
Some people play to the field
Mm-hmm.
whenever they're on a cipher, and that's never really been my goal. My goal is always to have the best verse, and so
fucking go.
I'm going
Yes, sir.
I'm going to try to do that.
Yeah.
So, there's nothing wrong with playing to the field because, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And sometimes you do need some person in there who's just, just got a little cool little flow or,
Yeah.
just like a saucy little thing.
So just like
going.
break things up.
Yeah, just to break things up and have to be that guy who's sort of like the point where things can
glue,
sort
maybe?
of
Yeah.
chill out and glue everything together. Sometimes you have to be that guy who doesn't try to steal the spotlight.
I know I took a bit longer than 10 minutes, but like we started getting into it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, because I'm a yapper.
you just performed back-to-back rehearsals, everything this weekend, and we still found time to do this. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you again, Ham.
Hey, thank
You're
you for
always
having me.
amazing to talk to. I'm gonna go for the whole embrace.
All right,
right
bro.
now. Let's go. All right, thank you.
All right, yep, thank you. Thank
good?
you. Subscribe to Ham Sandwich.
Actually, anything you want to shout out?
Subscribe to Ham Sandwich.
There we go.
Yeah.
One more time.
Subscribe to Ham Sandwich.
Don't do that. Just stop recording.